Hey there. I want to talk about loving yourself and the difference between codependent love and love. Um, so we often hear people or, see out there, just the directive to love yourself. And I too have asked my clients to do that over the years. And, it actually is something, loving yourself or saying you love someone else is an easy thing to say. However, it's just words until we truly follow it up with the practice of being present with whom we are choosing to love. And so I will share, my experience of learning to love myself and recognizing that there have been many years where I have not been practicing that, and it has shown up in many variety of ways, doing things to myself, my body, putting myself in certain situations that were not healthy for me or inspiring to me, or genuinely accepting of myself. So even though I thought I had reached a place of self-love and self-forgiveness in my life, I had to get honest with myself and really do an assessment of my actions and my choices and my thoughts, and be very rigorously honest about that, and kind of look at a day, for example, and look at how much love was I expressing toward myself based on the thoughts that I would give attention to or the choices that I would make, um, and and kind of my attitude toward myself and others, because we can't truly be loving ourselves if we're doing things that are harmful to ourselves. And most of the time we're lying to ourselves if we are doing those things. We kind of just like go into autopilot and just, kind of sit in a place of denial because we want some kind of immediate gratification. We choose to believe that whatever it is that we're doing is going to satisfy us, whether it's, being in a relationship that we think, has to work, or it's, acting out some kind of a compulsive behavior, shopping, or drugs, or any kind of addiction, food, sex, anything, that if we're doing that, that's not an act of love. Um, and so we have to be dedicated to become so loving, so devotional, which I like to define devotion as love and discipline together. Because love is a choice, but it is also a discipline. We have to be mindful and present in order to truly make that choice to love myself or anyone else. We have to be truly honest with our words and our thoughts, and how pure and honest I'm being with myself and with others. And if we really do an honest inventory of ourselves, we will discover that a lot of our words and actions and thoughts are not loving. And so for myself, in theory, I loved myself. In theory, I liked myself. In theory, I respected myself. But unfortunately, there were situations that I, would put myself in, or things that I would do that were clearly not love. So I made a decision as I entered the studies of yoga to really get honest about that with myself, and to start being accountable to the practice of self-love. And what does that look like? And I will be the first to admit that I'm not always self-loving, but it is a practice. It is something that I choose to practice as mindfully as I can every day. But every day I make choices of self-love, and I make choices that are not of self-love, because I'm human. And so I need to be aware of that and be patient with myself, and to understand that it's not something to be ashamed of, but it's something to bring compassion to, and acceptance, and to understand that it's really about the practice, the devotional practice of learning what love truly is and what self-love truly is. So I would invite you to have a look at your day-to-day life, and some of the things that we do, we know are not acts of love. Absolutely not. Eating something that causes our body pain and discomfort, drinking too much, making choices that are based on fear or greed, obsessing with anxious thoughts, or grasping and holding on to things that are unhealthy for us, and people that are unhealthy, perhaps relationships. So it is a daily practice to learn how to press the pause button, to be more present with ourselves and mindful, so that we can notice when we're acting out in these ways that are not like love-filled, and redirect without judgment, but redirect, clean up whatever mess we made with ourselves or somebody else, and go ahead and turn back to that practice. And over time, what happens is that true ability for a human being to love with sincerity, and that level of honesty, it starts to take root inside. And with that practice, it starts to create a genuine experience of self-love. All the other noise is still there, because we're human. All of those lower impulses and negative beliefs and thinking patterns, they're still there, and they might come out in certain moments, but that love starts to root inside. And as you practice, the practice starts to grow, and you start to truly make choices from this honest, loving place. So we have to do that inventory of ourselves. We have to really look at, what are the things that we're indulging, especially our thoughts. What are the voices in the back of our head that are being so cruel and so unkind to ourselves? To tell ourselves that, one of the things that I would do is I would tell myself that I didn't care. Oh, well, I don't care. If I make a choice that's not healthy for my body, for example, oh, I don't care. That's a lie. Of course I care. Maybe in moments I didn't care because I was mad at myself, because I was betraying myself in some way. So we really have to look at the patterns of thought that are stuck in our heads, and make an honest decision to say, hey, I do want to love myself, and it is a practice, and I have to do that and redirect my mind to that every single day. It's no different than any other relationship that you have, that if you take pride in being a loving person toward other people, how sincere and genuine is that really if we can't do it for ourselves? So that leads to this idea of codependency. And when we are loving as human beings, it is often with lots of strings attached. I love you when you do this. I love you when you make me feel this way. Yeah, is there just a general, human to human love? I love you because you're my child, my partner, my friend, my whatever. Okay, that's there. But again, if we do that very honest inventory of our thoughts while relating or thinking about somebody, how much are we purely choosing to just love that person? And how much of it is based on what they give to us emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, energetically. And so the decision to love yourself and the practice of loving yourself is also the practice of loving others. And one of the greatest challenges I find with people today, and definitely was the case for myself for a long while, is the busyness. We don't know how to sit still. We don't know how to even sit down and have an honest conversation with ourselves, to be present and honest and humble with our feelings and our thoughts that are going on that are harmful, unkind, damaging to ourselves or others. And so I find one of the greatest culprits is busyness and lack of stillness and silence and being present with ourselves. So here we are all running around in this busy lifestyle, running from here to there. Why is it that we think that so many people have mental health issues? Why is it that we think that so many people are struggling with anxiety and depression? Why is it that, the level of young people experiencing, and old, but children on up through high school, on up through college, are so struggling with mental health issues and anxiety, especially, and depression, of course. And why is that? Because no one is pausing and paying attention to the things that matter the most, which is the practice and the teaching of what self-love is. And what we are teaching our kids and ourselves in this society is that the more you do, the more you accomplish, the more you study, the more you achieve, the more you acquire, the more beautiful or handsome or smart you are worthy of a pat on the back or a trophy or a scholarship or a blah blah blah. So that's all conditional love. That's all conditional love. Many of us are not taking time with ourselves to practice unconditional love, to bring that compassion to the darkness within ourselves. And if we're not doing it for ourselves, then how do we expect our children to know how to do that? To kind of sit with themselves and say, hey, it's okay. It's all right. It's okay that you didn't make the team. Like, what are some other values here that we can instill? We're so generally arguing or pushing rather teaching our children, the discipline of ambition and goal setting. And there's nothing wrong with that. And in terms of, that being an aspect of who we are and choosing to do things that we love and do it with passion. But if we're doing it to acquire some kind of sense of self-worth, and that's not already there because we're not even connected with ourselves, then what are we doing? What's the point? Because what happens is people then feel so anxious. They feel like something's missing because something is missing. There's not that connection with ourselves or genuine connection with ourselves or others. We might be connected with our body because we're, trying to achieve something physically. We might be connected with our desire to do well in work or school. But are we really pausing and connecting with ourselves? So I know myself as well as so many, we view ourselves as these kind, compassionate, empathetic, people. However, we must get honest, because even when we do these kind, acts, are we being kind to ourselves just because we're going to get our nails done? I think a lot of people are being programmed by society's trends as to describing what is really kindness. I mean, nothing wrong with going to get your nails done or whatever, getting something that you enjoy for yourself. But is it coming along with kindness to yourself? Are you stopping the negative self-talk and the harmful behaviors and maybe perhaps the isolation? So collectively and individually, we need to have a look at this. Do you love yourself? Are you thinking, speaking, practicing, making choices, doing things that are deeply respectful, kind, and loving toward yourself? Are you practicing that? Are you being compassionate with yourself? Are you practicing breaking those habits that are negative and harmful and violent? Some of the things that we've said to each other, to ourselves, when we look in the mirror and we don't feel like we're measuring up to something, that's violence. That's not love, right? And a lot of us are programmed to do that. And it's such a habit, it's going on all the time. We have to be mindful enough to practice changing those habits. And to genuinely connect with ourselves and be still with ourselves and recognize the parts that are hurting or broken, that may be very old parts of ourselves, but they live inside of us, because of whatever experiences or conditioning we've had from life, from society, from family, from traumas. It's so very important. So I recognize that for myself, it's as I learn to be more self-loving and more honest about what that truly is, because you can deepen that more and more over time. And the more we do that, the more genuine experience of joy I have in being with other people, the more I can be accepting and compassionate with other people, the more I can be honest and transparent and vulnerable with other people. And it doesn't really even matter how they accept it or what they think of it or what their reaction is. There grows a fearlessness inside of you when you grow love inside of you, true love. Um, and so the practice of loving washes away the fears of abandonment, rejection, judgment, the fears that I'm bad or wrong or I should be ashamed about anything. All of that is fear. The fear of, loss, right? Abandonment, but also loss of some kind, loss of a feeling of power, loss of a feeling of material things, loss of a feeling of image. We hold on to all of these things in life, attachments that we have, such as big house, nice car, children who are overachieving, and we just drive ourselves. And, we wind up feeling exhausted and depleted, and it's never going to be enough, and we're going to just keep driving and driving and driving. And the more we do that, the more disconnected we feel to ourselves, the more disconnected we feel to our loved ones. And if we're really, really honest with ourselves and we sit still and we say, am I fulfilled? Do I feel happy? Am I aware of this thing inside of me that I need to now, I if I can just do this, or if this will just happen, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be happy. If this, then. If this, then. And that's because we're being driven by fear and of not being good enough and not belonging and letting go of the things that society values. So I would just invite you to really sit with yourself and be honest with yourself. How loving are you to yourself? Yes, we all have different values, but how loving are you to yourself? What are the thoughts that keep coming up that are unkind or violent? What are the actions that keep coming up that are unkind or violent? And are you being honest with yourself about them? Is smoking a lot of weed honest? Is that really kind just because you think it's making you feel better or regulate your anxiety? Is that truly love, or is that fear driven? And is that violent to yourself? Is that disabling your ability to be present in your life and to access that power within you? And we can say that with any compulsive behavior, any numbing agent, anything that alters our state of mind, anything that we do to feel better, but it's not changing ourselves from the inside out because we have to keep doing that thing. We have to keep ingesting something. We have to keep accomplishing something. So this was just something I wanted to share because I have been more sincere and honest with myself, and I'm very grateful to come to a place of truly bringing more kindness and love to myself, even in those moments, because I'm so imperfect, when I have negative thoughts or I act out on compulsive behaviors or whatever it is that, things that I'm not happy about, things that could be considered violent toward myself in some way, a habit thought, a habit action. I can pause and say, oh, I see that. That's a habit, and it's blocking me from being who I truly am, who I'm truly able to be, and blocking all of the blessings that could come into my life from letting go of the negative, violent habits, judgments, thoughts, behaviors. So I would love to invite you to practice the same, sit in the stillness and ask yourself these questions. Maybe journal about it, maybe make a list of things, practices that you do that you believe are sincerely loving toward yourself, and the ones that are not, because we're not there yet. Obviously, none of us are. It's a practice. That's why it's called a practice. And then to start choosing and being aware of, like, what do I have to shave out of my life, and what do I have to do to start changing these habits that are violent and unkind. And a lot of people don't like to acknowledge violence or unkindness inside of them, but it's there for every single one of us. And it is a very important part of healing, growing, evolving, raising our consciousness, and becoming free and experiencing the blessing of true joy. And also being able to find our purpose in life, and come to a more authentic place with ourselves. Because if we're being driven by all those fear things and all that violent stuff inside of us, it's very difficult to kind of find, what we're really wanting to do and what's going to really feel fulfilling, and how to handle certain relationships and circumstances. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions or comments, and thanks for listening. Bye.